Oh man, Big Pun. What's going on, bro?
Um,
It's been a long time, bro.
it has been a minute, Edwin Jack. I wasn't sure if you were gonna have your whole getup going, but you do. It looks awesome. Do
Yeah.
you ever talk about that? Is that a thing that you address to your audience?
I don't unless somebody asks me. But
Okay.
I don't usually address it, but um
Should I have pretended that you just always? I
but
brought attention to it. Oh no.
no, you good because, that's usually how it happens. Like, because of course it's like every time I hop on, sometimes what I'll do is I'll share a story behind something that happened in my life or someone else's life and how it's relevant to it. So that's something that I will do. But for the most part, like mainly it's usually someone who asks like about it.
Got it. Got it. Got
So
it.
so yeah, man. Bro, you're a freaking veteran now, bro. Like
I guess I
you're a
am.
veteran, dude. Like what was it? When did you start? Let's see, what year was it? Was it
Honestly,
2013 when you started working
yeah.
in
It's
AAA?
almost it's been almost exactly a decade.
Wow, bro, that was 213, right? It wasn't
Yeah.
214, it was 213, right? Yeah, because I was still there when you came in.
Yeah, but I think officially though, because like I was actually hired on as a temp,
Mm,
right?
yeah,
Like we weren't converted at all. So it took a while for us to get converted into like full-time employees.
right, right.
So I think the countdown started from when that started. It's been almost exactly a decade.
Wow, bro. Yo, man, that's crazy, bro. Like, and this is one of the reasons I was like, man, one, we got to catch up. I'm like, because I haven't spoken to you. I think the last time I spoke to you, like really spoke to you, was at the Kickstarter party, right?
Was it? It might have been.
Like we actually spoke to each other.
Or
Like
did I
not like
run into you?
we texted here and there, but like to actually talk to each other, I think was yeah.
I feel like I've seen you occasionally at PAX, but I don't remember if that was like before or after that Kickstarter party.
Yeah, it might have been, yeah. But man, dude, so I want to rewind, bro, because like your story is like amazing, bro. And it to think I was like, there's no better way but to start doing these type of videos and interviews and things with Ed Pun. I'm like, because you were the guy. This is the guy that got me in, like into AAA when I was still a college grad with my demo reel, just working on my stuff, my animation, and like I just remember that day, bro, walking into Tina Bryan and Jim's spot and just seeing you on the couch and looking at me, and they're like, "Oh yeah, Edwin, meet Edwin," and I'm like, "Oh, what's up, man?"
Oh
And I
yeah.
just remember that moment, bro, of us like talking, having conversations, and I want to rewind back to that, man, because that was the moment before, like, you going 10 years back, like that was where you were really like discovering this path for your life. So I think there's a lot of people, man, that want to be game developers today. There's a lot of folks that want to get into the industry. They don't know where to start, and they're sort of in that similar position that you were in 10 years ago, where you were like, all right, you're finding direction in terms of you love games. You know that you want to be involved somehow, but like you're trying to figure out, a way in. And so I just want to kind of rewind to that, man, because it's just like to see where you are now versus then, like, and then what you went through before even considering it. Uh, like, yeah,
Yeah.
bro. So
I Edwin Jack, man. I freaking I don't even know if my story is like a helpful story because what was it? I was just like lounging around like you said. Um I mean, did we even talk about like the fact that I was like a pharmacy major?
that
Um
We did.
Yeah.
That we absolutely did. We was talking about that a lot, bro. And that's shoot, like let's jump into that cuz
Well, I was a pharmacy major, and but I
and how
even in
many
the middle of, yeah,
go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like, even in the middle of going to, like, really expensive 6 year plus program for to get a doctorate's degree, farm D.
Mhm.
I was already kind of not super feeling it,
Mhm.
which I feel like it's such a more modern concept.
Yeah.
But I just wasn't the things that I was doing when I was interning, at CVS, which is like a retail
Mhm.
spot for pharmacists, which is, it's really stressful. But like I also wasn't loving my work. Uh, I don't love working there, and overall, like, the healthcare industry is really stressful. Uh, the demand are high, and like mental health is a huge issue.
Mhm.
Uh, and I think it was a part of it was just like sunk cost fallacy. I was already like in school for so long,
Yep.
and so I was just like, oh, I'll just wrap up, you know, last couple of years,
Mhm.
and nab this degree, see where I go with it. I ended up on Brian's couch, um, not really feeling it, and I believe, wasn't it after a bit of you working? I think you helped get me into the QA testing position, right? I don't know if you want to talk about that. I don't even really remember that span of time,
So
honestly.
I remember it. I remember it. I can vividly see things like it was yesterday.
Okay.
So I think what's so powerful was that and how many years you said 6 years total wasn't it more years of schooling than that? Didn't you have to do undergrad and then you had to do
Six
and
year
then
for
you did it
pharmacy.
and then you did
It's
a
in
master's
pharmacy.
degree, right?
For pharmacy, would you? It's kind of like a, yeah, you do it, but it's like wrapped in. The undergrad is like wrapped in. It's 6 years total.
Mm.
And there's even an accelerated program in Worcester,
Okay.
where they don't take off summers. They
Mm-hmm.
just crank out like 4 full years. They sacrifice their summers for doing a 4 year pharmacy program.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like accelerated. I went to MCPHSU, which is one of the colleges of the Fenway in Boston, and that's a 6 year pharmacy program.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Okay. Okay. So total 6 years with the undergrad.
yeah,
Okay. Wow. And that is that is a long time, man. And
long
I
in colleges is not cheap.
is not, bro. Wow. Well, we'll jump more into that because yeah, I went to college myself, and if I could go back in time, I probably I probably would not have gone, or would have gone for a lot less time. Probably no more than 1 to 2 years. I did a 4 year program, but
Four years was 4 years was like really traditional
yeah, yeah,
time. Yeah.
yeah, 100 grand. So yeah, in that time, I remember, and the thing that's so powerful about to me is just like it was like you knew what you loved, you knew what you were passionate about, and we had all these conversations, and this was before I even got in, because you had introduced me to your cousin, and but we had all these conversations because like the way they had that, like they had the L shaped couch thing, and I remember I was crashing over there, and I was crashing on like the one part of the L, and you was like on the other part, and we were just. I remember I was visiting from New York. I was staying in New York City at the time, And I was just like, all right, I got laid off from some web development gig, and I was just like, all right, dude, I'm just gonna grind out my portfolio. And so I came to visit, and they was like, yeah, you can just crash on the couch on the floor, whatever, and we was just hanging out. But I remember us like having conversations. We were just like, man, so where you at in life, bro? And I was like, well, I'm here, bro. I'm just working on my demo reel, like, I
We're
know
just a
no.
couple of bums.
Yeah, I'm like no job right now. Like, I was like, bro, like I'm literally just holding on my faith right now. I'm working on my work, on my animation. I went to GDC. I did all this stuff to try to get work. And I was like, well, where you at in life, bro? You was like, and you told me about what you went to school for and everything. And then we was like, all right, what now? And both of us was, that's what we were. We was just talking it out with each other. And I was just like, man, I was kind of exhausted from getting all these rejections and turn downs from trying to, show my work. And then that's when you was like, well, hey man, I got a cuz he works at WB Turbine. It's like, hey man, I can introduce you guys. Who knows? So I'm like, all right, cool. And I was very like chill about it or whatever. I was
Yeah,
just like zen about it at that point. Um, and then for you, it was like you was like, man, I did all this schooling in this, and I don't even think I want to be in that the rest of my life. Like if I was to really think about what I want to do the rest of my life.
exactly.
And so I was just like, that's when I was having that dialogue. I was like, well, what do you love, bro? And then you was like, well, I love, I want to be in games somehow. And at that time, you were playing, League. And yeah, I remember, bro, you was playing League,
Oh
and
no,
everybody in the house but me played
that was a
League.
dark time in my life.
Everybody in that apartment played League but me. And I was just like, okay. And I was like, bro, I think you should be in the game industry. And what
Yep.
you were basically like, yo, well, what experience? You was like, I did all these years of
Yeah,
you
working
know
at CVS, just counting pills 5, 10, 15, 20. That's what the technicians do for a lot of it, right? Because they're the ones who are filling your prescriptions at CVS, right?
yeah,
Like not the pharmacy, the pharmacist isn't doing a ton of like that would be a waste of their time if they were just counting 5, 10, right? Because they're getting paid so much more.
yeah.
They're being paid to manage the pharmacy and the patients, etc. Call
Mm-hmm.
the doctors, the the control drugs that are locked in the safe.
Mm-hmm.
They manage all that stuff, but it's the technicians, the interns who do a vast majority of the pill counting. I mean, this was back. I don't even know if like these days if there's like robots and stuff counting pills. Like I
Oh
would be
man.
surprised if there wasn't, but I don't know actually what's going on behind the pharmacy that's modern. But
Yeah.
when I was working there in like the 2000s, right? Like we were just doing it all by hand with a spatula.
Yeah. Wow. Wow, bro. And yeah, and I think you was just like, man, where you was at that point, you was like, do I really want to do this for the next
It's stressful.
15, 20 something years of my life?
It is very stressful, and let me say that like because everybody's under like a certain amount of stress
Yeah.
at CBS, uh, it was kind of like there was a sort of like air of hostility.
Mm.
Um, because like you're just there's like a mountain that you're all staring down, and like it gets you'd think you'd be super collaborative, and it would be amazing to rely on your teammates and stuff, but like there was a certain level of toxicity that resulted from us being under all the stress, and we were not we could have been much better to each other. um when we think of teamwork and stuff,
Mm.
it's usually very positive. I'd say that a lot of my time in CVS was very negative. Uh,
Wow.
yeah, and so you would think that me being a bum on, a couch would have been playing League of Legends would have been the low point in my life. No, it was before that. It was when I was working at CVS. That was the low point. Me jumping on the couch,
Mm.
that was an improvement.
Wow, bro. So maybe it could be a switch of perspective here. Maybe that was you being on the couch playing League of Legends was your transitioning
Yeah.
point. It was your transitioning point to what you're doing now, because it actually, ironically, it actually ended up being the thing that got you in, right? Because when you
Yeah.
got into QA, isn't that what the when you got the interview, was because of your rank in league, right?
I guess okay. To add a bit of context for folks, right? Like when I joined specifically for uh, a game that we were developing, uh, that was a MOBA that was also like League of Legends.
Mm-hmm.
This company is working on a MOBA. League of
Mm.
Legends is the same genre. And
Yeah.
so like my ranking, I think at the time with Jimmy's help was was gold, and that was pretty good, right? Gold, not the
Yeah.
greatest, but like you're pretty competent and you have lots of League of Legends experience
Yeah.
to be able to get that gold, right? That's like you're not a bronze player, you're not even a silver player, you're gold.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so that was actually a part of the interviewing process.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so so I would say that you're not wrong. Like I think that kind of helped for sure. I didn't
Definitely.
I didn't put too much thought into that. But
Yeah, yeah, perception's everything, man. It's like, for you, it was like, oh, it was a bum on the couch. In terms of your perception, to me, seeing it, I'm like, that's what got you in. You know what I
but
mean? So,
but not to take the wrong lesson from this.
mm-hmm.
Uh, that position as a QA tester is very entry level, right?
Mm-hmm.
Uh, if your audience, is trying to get in as like an artist or a writer or an engineer,
Mm-hmm.
all those require, like, you need to demonstrate your skills, as an engineer, as an artist, you got to have a portfolio.
Yep.
As a QA tester, though, I think it's a little bit more like, can you give good feedback,
Yeah.
right?
Mm.
How meticulous are you about assuring the quality, QA, quality assurance?
Right.
So I think depending on, which discipline you're trying to get into, you want to make sure your skills are tailored in that direction.
Yeah.
Because like saying that you want to get into games is broad because there's
Yeah.
like so many different positions. You can even you can even try to be like a producer, which at least for us is sort of like the people who organize and manage all of the work and look at milestones and track stuff in tracking software that people use in
Mm.
companies like bigger companies, right? That's a position, but that position also isn't as, you don't think about that when you're like, oh, I want to work in games. You don't think about doing production, because that's kind of, you know, that almost feels separated
Yeah.
from game development. Generally, when people say they want to get into games, they want to work directly in creating and designing. But that's different,
Yeah.
Like design is its own discipline, but there's a lot of different teams uh, required to make it.
Yeah.
So, uh, you know, I don't work in an indie studio, So I can't really speak to that. Maybe as an indie studio, you can just be a much smaller team and kind of deal with you can kind of like do everything.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, I guess that's different, right? I don't have that experience, so I can't speak to it.
Yeah. The thing, man, for me, it really doesn't matter what, if you have no experience, it doesn't matter what position you get in as, because soon as you get in, you're surrounded by people in those positions and they're talented, right? So it's like you just being you, and around these folks, having lunch, events, whatever, you get to know them and they'll share with you. Like that was from my experience. Like I had a lot of people like, oh, oh, you want to learn how to like draw stuff better? Oh, okay, yeah, here, I'll show you a couple of things I do. you
Oh
know
yeah.
so it's like once you get in, or like once you're working with a team of talented people and you have no experience, like all of that stuff doesn't matter, because they'll be more than happy to share, from my experience, what I've seen. So it's like, yeah, now, like what's your position now? Like what's the title of your?
Oh, I'm a UX designer now.
Oh, you're UX, bro. Wow, look at that. Wow, QA to UX, bro. Oh my gosh. Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So hold on. Okay. So let's rewind a little bit. So back to, so at Tina, Jimmy, Brian's, and then boom, you had no experience, but you were playing League. You were in this transitioning period from a graduate, a PhD, right?
PharmD, yeah.
Yep. Graduate. You were in CVS. So it was an internship,
It wasn't. I mean,
or you were like actually,
yes.
you actually had a position, like you were an employee.
So I was an intern, but that's
Okay.
like a really common thing for you to be interning at a retail place if you're doing schooling for it. Yeah.
Okay. So from that transitioning period, boom, and even in this period, you processing, right? You processing. You like, this is where I am. This is what I love, and then I come in, right? So for me, bro, I don't believe in coincidences. I think I've shared this with you before, but in my faith, man, it's like that was alignment. So it's like, here you got this guy, you got these two guys with the same name. They come into somewhere through common friendships, come into this same environment, and then both jobless at the time, and then and we both get in to the industry that we love through each other, and both in that transit, because I was in a transitioning period too, actually, because I had got laid off from web development. I was in New York, I was staying in Staten Island, and I was working in Manhattan. So I got laid off from that, and then I'm figuring out, where the heck is my life going? So, and then playing League, boom, boom, boom. So I think what I want to get to, where I'm going at, is like, just in that time, the mental, right? Um, I think you already knew what you loved. You already knew, and I think that's what happened. What's going on with a lot of people right now? They know they love games. They know they want to make games or get involved with games somehow, and they're in a period in their life where it was kind of like that, where it's like they kind of feel stuck, but they know, but they're trying to figure out, a way through. And me and you having dialogue, all we did was talk, and then we changed our situations. Like we talked about it. I was able to talk about what I was going through, and me having that dialogue with you, you helped me process, and then vice versa. So it's like a lot of it is a mental. it's a mental thing where I think sometimes what happens is we kind of get stuck. Um, I tell people try to live their life in person if they're playing a third person game, because sometimes when we're in first person mode, it's hard to see those things or really process them, because we've experienced, including the stuff from the past, in terms of, okay, I did all this schooling, I went, got my PhD, I did the intern, I had all this pressure from other folks that this is the industry I should be in. And now, you know, now I'm in this position where I'm being pulled from two sides. So so it's like that mental part, or that mental battle of overcoming that to then have salvation through what you wanted to begin with. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah. No, that's it was kind of miraculous. And this is sort of why I feel like it's a little difficult to sort of convert this into like takeaways. I think you have to, it's so cliche, but like keeping yourself exposed
Mm-hmm.
to the sort of the industry that you want to be in.
Mm-hmm.
But be also like, if you know you want something, but it's really specific, um, I think you have to really like, you have to be more of an expert if you want to do something kind of niche, uh, right? Like if you're like saying, "Oh, I just want to develop an indie platformer,"
Mm-hmm.
right? If you want to do that, uh, then you have to just do it.
Yeah.
Uh, I was more of a blank slate, so when I saw maybe a bit of an opportunity, I'm like, "Oh, let's see where this goes."
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but I imagine like a lot of people in general have a better idea of what they want to do. And so I think you just gotta like, if you want to be an illustrator, you have to have a either pretty good portfolio so that, a company will look at your portfolio and be like, oh, we can hire you to do exactly what you're already doing.
Mm-hmm.
Or, right, or you could just, you know, start trying to make a game if you want to go
Yeah.
indie.
Yeah.
But if you don't want to do engineering, then you have to team up with somebody who can do that,
Yeah.
right? Because it's a different, you need that person on your team.
Yeah.
Um, so then you have to like be in the community and make connections. Otherwise, how are you gonna get somebody to make your game if you just have art? So, I mean, you could probably speak to that, and you were an animator.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what's so powerful about it, is because you had two people. You had the person who had no type of skill set experience, or I don't want to say none. You you had you had skills that could translate over into your QA position. And like you said, with QA, it's like it's that position that it's not like concept artists, right? Where you have to be drawing crazy good to where like you're like, all right, you developed this mastery of 10,000 hours to be able to get into this position.
Right, it's entry level mostly.
Yeah,
A
yeah,
lot of it.
yeah. Like QA's entry level and versus like the concept artists that like, and there's still entry level concept art positions, but it's still on the hierarchy chart. QA's like, you know, more entry level, you'd say, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So, but here you had these two different people, for which was, you know, trying to qualify for QA, qualify for an animator position, and both got into the industry. So, looking at that, it's like, okay, my mental battle was my stuff's not good enough. Like that's where I was. You know what I mean? Like where I was when I came into Tina and Jim's and them, I spoke to you. That was my challenge. I said, dude, I went to college. Here's my demo reel. I think I showed you my demo reel. And I was like, man, my stuff's not good enough. And it was more so a challenge of I'm not good enough. You know, when I went to GDC, I went to GDC with this lack desperation energy. You know what I mean? Like this is the mental stuff I'm talking about of where I could remember vividly where I was in my life at that time. And I was just like, dude, like I remember going up to Capcom, Square Enix, Blizzard, all these different companies, you know. Remember going up to them like, yo, man, look, I work for free. I'm like I just want to get my foot in the door. I want to learn. I'm hungry. I have crazy work ethic. And it just came off as this like, you know, like I was desperate. And nobody the thing is when you come out with that type of energy, like nobody they it's hard for them to see you for the true you. You know, so I when I got rejected and stuff and then I met you, I had got to the point where I exhausted that so much and then I just like I said, I was just kinda like, I let go. I was just like, whatever happens, happens, whatever. Like that's when you told me about your cousin. I was just like, oh, okay, whatever. Like, because I was already there, right? And that mental part of me letting go, I think, was one of the big things that got me in. Because when I did end up, when he introduced me, when he invited me to the gala, the game development gala, and I got on the bus to come from New York to Boston to go to that gala to link up with him and to meet all the art directors.
I didn't even remember that. Okay.
Yeah, this is how I got in. So once you introduced me to him, you gave me his email. I emailed him. I was like, hey, what's up, man? I was like, hey, your cousin tells me you know you work at WB Turbine. I was like, hey, here's my demo run, man. Just let me know what you think. You know, I'm just working to improve. I just want to get better. And me and him was going back and forth, and he was like, hey, man, I actually showed your stuff to some people at the studio, and they dig your work. I'm like, word? I'm like, oh, okay, well, that's what's up. You know, for me in my mind, I'm like, just keep working, just keep animating, keep getting better. And then he basically was like, all right, look, we have this game development gala coming up. I think you should come. I can introduce you to art directors and stuff. I think we actually have an animator position open. So I go, and he introduced me to everybody, and then I applied and I got in. So I remember like mentally where I was then, where I was when I went to GDC, where I was when I met you, and it's like where I was when I met you was I was in that transitioning period. I didn't think my work was good enough, but I was like, I don't care. I'm just gonna keep. This is what I love, and I'm gonna keep working on my stuff, and something's gonna click. And you know, and I was diligently working on my demo reel day and night. So that's where I was mentally. I was just like, I'm not good at my stuff's not good enough, or I'm not good enough. And then I said I let go. I started letting go of that, having conversations with you. And I think when I showed you my stuff, you was like, yo, like, this is pretty cool, dude. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I definitely think you should show this to my cousin. And so it started giving me that, like, helping me mentally, like, saying, you know what, man, I do actually have something. You know what I mean? Like, I do actually have something, and I
It
can
was
make,
cool. Yeah.
yeah,
No, I
that I
remember
can make
seeing
this
your
work.
demo reel. It was very cool.
Yeah, I appreciate it, bro. Like, and you helped me, like, you were helping me process that because that's where I was mentally. You know what I mean? I was already exhausted and stuff, and so I think like it's so powerful to take that and then also where you were mentally to show people like, look, man, wherever you stand in your life, like, just shoot. You know what I mean? Just go for it. It's usually something. It's usually something that mentally or some type of barrier we create for ourselves through the past experiences that's preventing us from having the greatest present experience, I think. And I think that's where when we were aligned to meet, that's where both of us were,
The
you know.
takeaway that you have to like be in tune with the spirits.
Yeah, like which is, cuz we got it, every person got a deep spirit. Everybody has a spirit. I believe every person's mind, body, and spirit, soul. So it's just like, the soul is like your soul knew I love games. You know what I mean? Like that's what you're so you like. I love games. I want to be involved. And then you have that battle of, okay, but all this past stuff, all this past experience, like how do I get past that? Like how do I get past the insecurities, the fears, the anxiety, all of that stuff that's keeping me from being in the industry I love so much? How do I get past that? And I think we helped each other process that, just through sharing stories and testimonies. We helped each other process that to become more in tune with ourselves. I think
Yeah.
sometimes it takes that push. I'm reading a book right now, and it talks about how that's such a powerful thing in the military, whether you're Navy SEAL, whether you're a Marine, but having that soldier that, like, your squad mate push you, usually somehow you get some type of energy outside of yourself to keep going.
Oh yeah. We
So
definitely did that for each other.
yeah, like like, so, I think that's the biggest. I think that's one of the biggest things, man, because mental health, man, is mainstream now. Like, it's something that's talked about every day. A lot of people are becoming more aware of just like mental health, what's going on with them and things, and trying to get more in tune with themselves. And for us, like, that was the experience that we had, and helping us get over that mental hurdle, to be able to say, you know what, no, like, okay, I I have this demo role and I've been working on this skill for, like, I have something. Oh, you know what? I don't have like industry experience, or I didn't have an industry experience either. Or, you know what? Oh, even though I've been working on another skill for several years, that doesn't mean that holds me back from who I am right now and what I can do with my life.
For me, I think it was just like so I was really burnt out from
Yeah.
working at CVS, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so I was on a couch, um, playing League, etc.
Mm-hmm.
I think after a while of doing that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like I obviously that's not sustainable. And while I really am grateful for that period of time, I think that was like a really, I mean, you mentioned it being a transition period, but like I needed that because I needed to kind of heal a little bit from that burnout from working at CVS.
Yeah.
Um, and then some weird opportunities came along and I felt a little bit better. And so I was like, you know what? I'll give it a shot. And if it doesn't, or like, if it doesn't work out, what do I have to lose? I just had so little to lose that, like, yeah, I just was like, just go for it. Like QA tester position doesn't even pay that much. Obviously, it's entry level.
Mm-hmm.
But I was curious. Um,
Yeah. Hmm.
that was it for me. I was just kind of curious, and I had nothing to lose.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like, and while you know, the games industry thing is really important. Um, but like, I wasn't even sure that that position, like as a QA tester, would really even be very like, because it's not a design position, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of people who are like, oh, I want to do, I want to be in the games industry. Typically, they want to design,
Yeah.
whether it be concept art
Yep.
or just like game systems.
Mm-hmm.
They want to design. QA tester, I think that the QA tester role is interesting because it's I feel like it's half games and half not games. Even though you're spending a lot of time technically playing a game,
Mm-hmm.
it's not really playing a game.
Yeah.
Um, it's you're essentially just like because nobody plays the game by like trying to run through the map,
Right.
right? Like that's not playing the game because generally when people think of playing games, they play it as the designers intended.
Yep.
But as a QA tester, you're doing the opposite. You're playing the game as the designer did not intend for it to be played,
Yeah.
so that you could break it.
Right.
So then you have a report, that involves paperwork. So it's work. Um, so, you know, I think the games industry sometimes is a little bit glorified, but I think it was still like what I found, you know, in Needham was a really cool team. I think that's the one thing that like you're gamers, so you have like
Mm.
you have a common interest. And I actually think that that's one of the sort of big perks of being at a games company. Isn't just like you're making games; it's like you're working with gamers. That's that's important, right?
100%, bro. 100%. That mental, like, yeah, you saying like you needed that. Like, I think we both did. And that's something to say. Like, it's okay if you're in that period. I think sometimes for me, sometimes like when I'm in that period, like you said, any even when you're in it, you'll see it as like, this sucks. I should be doing this, right? Like, oh,
Yeah,
um, and that's a societal thing to where it's like I should be out 9 to 5, where it's like, no, you sit your butt down, heal. You burnt yourself out. Like, you know what I mean? You was working, counting pills and stuff. You burnt yourself out. Sit down and just let your brain rewire, let your heart, just let yourself heal, man. Um
that was
and
definitely
I
something I thought. Yeah, that's why
yeah.
so many people I feel like these days need therapy, and I as somebody who has yet to go to therapy, um, that's something I'm working on currently.
Mm,
Um, but there's just a lot of there's just a lot of stuff
yeah.
preventing a lot of people from being their best.
Yeah.
Um, there's just so much stuff that I feel like the modern day, like 2024 human being needs to be like the average person
Mhm.
that schools I feel like fail to teach you in many ways.
Yeah.
Um, that and I feel like it's like a hopefully we're not getting too off topic, but I feel like it's something that like parents are having trouble now a little bit with reconciling sort of like their children and technology and how it affects them. Because you and I feel like we grew up in an age where we just like our peers were discovering technology
Mhm.
as opposed to like the children these days, they have it from day one.
Mhm.
Like
Yep.
the internet
Yep.
is such a drastic thing to like be to develop, have your brain develop with those technologies.
Yeah.
Um, I think we're finding ourselves kind of like on incapable or very fresh in terms of like figuring out how to deal with it. Um, I don't
Perfect.
know. I don't know. That's kind of like that was kind of like a heavier discussion than like games industry. That was sort of society. That was like a
No,
society.
This is perfect. This is perfect. It's a perfect transition, bro. Because that's something, else like I wanted to like just kind of pick your brain about that part, right? Okay, let's go to the root. Like high school. You're a high school student, you're about to graduate, everyone's talking about what? College, right? Parents are talking about college, your peers are talking about college, your your teachers are talking about college, your cousins, your aunties, your uncle, everybody's talking about that. And for that time in your life, you going into school for that, is that something that you wanted in that time? Like
Um,
from what I remember that you shared with me, but is that, if you could go back and look at the, is that something that you was like, man, I love, like, or you have some type of thing that was in your heart, like, oh, I love this industry, or I want to help people some type of way like this through medicine. Like, was
so
that with you in that time, or was it something outside of you?
so we're talking about the transition from like high school to college, right?
Yeah, we're talking about you even getting involved, going, because you had to do a 4 year degree, right?
6 years.
Six,
Or are
but
we
you
talking about
but you had
high
to do
school?
undergrad, right? For college, you had to do undergrad first, and then you had to do 2 more years.
I think it's considered, so it's like as a whole, I mean it's kind of weird because it's I feel like they don't separate it well.
Mm-hmm.
But as a whole, it's 6 years, but the first 2 years are technically undergrad. But they don't they don't emphasize that at all. They're
Mm-hmm.
just like RMD takes 6 years. Here you go. Um, Unless you're in Worcester doing the accelerated, in which case it's 4 years. But it's just like, it's kind of like a whole package. But like if we're talking, you mentioned high school and the transitioning into that. I would say at the time I went to a good school, right? I lived in a fairly well off city or town that had great schools, and it was super normal for everyone to go to college. It just wasn't like even a question, really. It was just sort of like you go to college so that you can get a good education so you can get a better job and have a better life. Everybody wants a better life,
Mm-hmm.
right? Um, but it was, I think there's a certain amount of like that defines like what you get your degree in kind of defines in many ways like your path forward.
Mm-hmm.
Even if it's I'd say it's fairly common for somebody with a any degree to do something else. Like that happens. But ideally you're going to a school with a major in thing that you want to do. I think the thing that's difficult is knowing what you want to do. I think my choice was not like I'm really passionate about, you know, working in a pharmacy
Mm-hmm.
or healthcare outcomes or, taking care of patients
Mm-hmm.
and, communicating with doctors. None of those things were that compelling to me. And the reason I just went into pharmacy was because I heard it's a stable job uh,
Mm-hmm.
with a pretty good starting income,
Mm-hmm.
right? Starting income for pharmacy is better than what I make now, but um, but I didn't look into it. Um,
Yeah.
you know, it was just like, oh, this is a path that somebody else designed for me, so I'll just do it.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until way later that like I was questioning that, and I think that
Mm-hmm.
you need to question that the moment that you make that really expensive decision. I think that's the thing that I didn't think about at the time, that it was a very expensive decision to make.
Yep.
Uh, like I had my parents' support at the time,
Mm-hmm.
But I think I think you gotta have your own. You need to have your own personal support before you just make that call if that's a call you want to make.
Yeah.
Uh, I
Yeah.
think things probably look a little different these days in 2024 because like I feel like it's shifted back to like now trades are really important. We're missing some of that. We need more people in there. So now they're making a lot of money. So I
Right.
think it's almost like you should be betting on the opposite of what's hip right now. Because if you go against the trends, then maybe over time it kind of like, kind of it flips a little bit, right? Everybody does one thing and now you have too many people. Now you don't have enough people doing this thing because this thing wasn't popular at the time. So yeah, I don't know. I
Yeah.
think make sure when you make a decision into a major, you have really good reasons for why you're there.
Right.
Is some advice that I would give looking back. I
Right.
didn't
Right.
have good reasons for being in pharmacy. Not good
Mm.
enough. Not
Mm.
good enough to warrant a 6 year expensive college program.
Yeah. Mm. Okay. So you was so okay. So it was. He was like, all right, I heard this is stable. It pays good, and
And you know what? That's kind of that can be important, but
mm.
I think it's also important to understand that you'll be doing. Like, is that the thing you have to ask yourself? Is that the thing you want to be doing kind of indefinitely?
Right.
And I at the time I didn't even really know. It's kind of appalling looking back on it. Like I didn't even know what pharmacy was really.
Mm.
And how would I know unless I literally am talking to pharmacists, right? They're behind a counter. That's all I know about them. They're like the person behind a counter. They wear a lab coat.
Mm.
They they're experts at drugs. But like, do I really know what they do?
Yeah.
You know, from morning to night? Not really. Uh, yeah, and it wasn't until I was working at CVS that like I kind of started to understand what it was.
Mm.
You you want to have that exposure before you make that decision, which is why it's difficult. I don't know if people think about this or even have the opportunity to make these kinds of decisions, but I think it's really important before you decide on a major that you have a good understanding of what you're signing up for.
Yeah. Yeah. It's for most men. When you're coming out of high school, like you don't know. For most folks, it's like and it's understandable because you're still really young. Like there's still a lot of exploration and discovery to be made. So
Mhm.
but just why I say it was perfect that you transition to this because society, it's like that's the roadmap. Okay, you graduate, you go to college, you do more schooling, and you do schooling for what you're going to be doing for the rest of your life, or most of your life until you retire or whatever. For me,
Exactly.
and for me it was like I knew exactly what I wanted to do. I always knew I wanted to make games. I actually, my mom's, she wanted me to be in culinary. So at first, when I was graduating high school, I started looking into culinary schools because I was like, oh yeah, I like to eat.
I like to
But
eat.
I was like, I don't know if I was working at Friendly's restaurant, and I was a cook there. I was an ice cream person at first, and then I was
Oh, okay. How long do you work there?
it was like probably for like a season.
Oh, okay. That's
Yeah,
about how long I worked at McDonald's.
yeah, yeah, man. So I worked there, and I was like, I don't know if I could do this the rest of my life, even if it was more, exotic foods. And so I was like, well, what do you love, Ed? I was like, you know what you love. I was like, all right, I'm gonna go to school for that. So I went to school for game development.
Hey, that's a blessed decision, I would say.
Yeah, I knew, but my challenge was I was like, okay, I didn't know how to get there. And the challenge around that is like usually that pressure of college makes a lot of like high school graduates just go into that financial decision. Like, and that's what I did. I was just like, okay, all my friends are going into college. My parents really want me. It was all this external stuff. It wasn't me. It wasn't saying, okay, do I want to do that right now? Am I ready for that right now? Do I need to take a break? Do I need to figure out who I am more? It wasn't any of that stuff. It was all. It was a lot of external things. I'm not gonna say all of it was external because I made a decision ultimately as an 18-year-old, 17-year-old. I said, okay, I'm gonna do this, but it is a factor. I take responsibility for every action I made, but it's a factor that what you grow up around and what school, what's your environment that plays a role. So yeah, bro. Like I said, if I could go back in time, I'm like, man, because that's a very big decision financially.
Yeah.
It could affect you for years. It did for me. Um, so yeah, man, like just just seeing where you are instead of where society is, and then like really having that self-awareness and understanding to be able to make decisions for yourself, for your life. Like you said, making wise decisions and say, okay, yeah, that's stable, but is that going to be sustainable for me internally? I think that's definitely very, very big deal. A lot of people are in that position right now. What is it, June? We got a lot of high school graduates and stuff. Graduations happening. We got college graduations happening. This is a point where a lot of people are making that decision. Like, okay, where do I go from here, and what's important? So
You know, I think like, this is, hindsight 2020 type of thing. But at the time, I was just incapable. I was just so, right, because I'm focused on schooling, I'm
mm,
focused on academics.
mm,
I was kind of just incapable of really having that good reflection and self-awareness, like you said.
yeah,
And I think that I needed at the time, like I needed a good mentor to tell me, to help me,
yeah,
because I couldn't, like I just couldn't. I was just so focused on trying to get the best grades and just
right,
doing what everybody else was saying.
yep, yep,
I think it's really important to have a good mentor to be like, hey, like, is this really what you want to do? Like, this is a
mm,
big commitment, I think
yeah,
that's some of that. I think is, could be replaced by good parenting.
yeah,
Uh, but I think students have like they should have good, hopefully good mentors that we can look up to or find
yeah,
within their school.
definitely,
Um, I think we had guidance counselors, but I never went to them. I didn't really know what they did.
yeah,
Like they exist, but I didn't really utilize them because that was like another thing that I had to do, and I was already
mm,
focused on, trying to get good grades. Like, why
yep,
do we have time to like find and that's the thing. Like, I think even as a grown up, mentoring or not mentoring, but like networking,
mm,
right? Like knowing the right people, and getting good advice
yep,
is so much more efficient
yep,
than just you stumbling around.
yeah. I
You
tell
know,
people, I tell people all the time. I say, look, if I can go back in time, or coming out of high school, I say, hey, this is what you can do if you don't want to spend an arm and a leg. I said, find yourself a circle of mentors. This, do self exploration and discovery in terms of what you want to do and what you're passionate about, and find mentors and people around that, and just keep working on your craft. And that,
that's some
that's
good
how you,
advice.
yeah, I'm like, that's how you could like, if you want to be someone that is a concept artist, like, okay, find you a bunch of mentors who are concept artists. You could work something part-time, just keep money in your pocket, and be able to go to events, network, so you can meet them, PAX, whatever, Comic-Con, and just get you a circle of mentors and keep practicing. There's tutorials and stuff everywhere. There's cheap 3-month courses that you could take or whatever, and just do that instead. and there's even ways for, you know, I tell people if you need a classroom setting, there's ways for you to gather with groups of people to be able to do the same the thing that you love, kind of like a classroom setting, where you can bounce ideas, etc. So yeah, that absolutely mentors. Like that's the one thing I tell people. That's the number one thing I tell people. Get yourself a
Sure.
circle of mentors, not only in concept art and stuff like that or whatever it is that you're passionate about, but just, you know, in other areas. You know, whether it be financial, get you a financial mentor, somebody that you know that got their money together. They've had it together for years. They know how to, you know, I'm like get that.
That's something that I need today. What am I doing? What am I doing with my money? I don't know.
Yeah, man,
Not buying a house, that's for sure.
oh man. On that note, so like, how are things with you now, man? I don't want to take up too much of your time, so I say we get about 10 more minutes, whatever. 10, 15 more minutes to hop off. So how are you doing now, man? Like, okay, you UX, boom, industry veteran, been doing this for about 10 years. Like, how it's like, are you playing? Are you still playing bass? Well, with the last time I think I jammed with you in May Moon,
Oh,
like we were
oh,
jamming,
oh.
bro. Like, are you still
You
jamming? You
remember those
playing?
times, huh?
Yeah.
I haven't picked up my bass in a while. Sadly.
Wow.
Sadly.
Mm.
Um, I have a lot of hobbies.
Hmm.
Music is one that I've only kept up with in terms of like I listen
Uh
now.
huh.
I'm just listening to music instead
Hmm.
of super dabbling.
Uh huh.
Um, you know, board games is a big, tabletop games. That's a big one for me.
Hmm.
I've always been a fan. I love board games maybe like as much or even more than video games. So that's a huge one for me.
Okay.
Uh,
Do you go to the like PAX and stuff or the board
Unplugged,
game stuff? Tabletop?
that's in Philly. In
Well
Philly.
PAX.
Yeah,
Well, hold on.
Unplugged.
You did you move?
No, but like the tabletop one, PAX's tabletop one is in Philly.
Oh, it's in Philly, but they have
Yeah.
tabletop at
Oh, at
the
East.
at East too.
Yeah. So like
Okay.
East is the video game, is the big video game convention, but there is a tabletop section,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
So of course when I go to East, I'll check out the video games, but yes, I'm going to the tabletop area to hang out
Okay.
and play board games and stuff. But
Uh,
the one in Philly, Unplugged, that convention is board games. So like you'll have the board game companies demoing board games. So it's just like it's a lot more appropriate if you're a board gamer to go to the one in Philly, than it is to go to like the video game one in Boston,
got you.
right?
Got you.
I
Okay.
love the one in Philly, and I'm so sad that I couldn't go to it last year. And I'm planning. I'm like now I'm looking at flights so I can go to Philly this year.
Hmm.
I'm stoked. I'm
Okay.
huge on it. I'm huge on it, man.
Okay. 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 So been in more in the tabletop scene.
Oh yeah,
Okay.
that's the other industry that I'm like I've got my eye on now.
Got you. Yeah, it's bro. It. I tell people, I'm like, yo, tabletop. It has yet to. It's always been doing well, like especially on Kickstarter. You see these tabletop projects. I'm like, oh my god, like look,
Oh
look
yeah, they're
that's
millions. They're
freaking
bringing in
crazy,
millions.
crazy, bro.
We're kind of
Wow.
in like
Okay.
we're kind of in the gold. I think a lot of people would say we're in the golden age of
Mm.
board games. Like every year we're coming. There's so many good board games coming out. It's like we're just pumping them out as a society.
Mm.
We're doing some of the best things we've ever done, right?
Wow.
Yeah.
I think we were playing Dominion when I met you. You
Oh
remember
yeah.
Dominion?
I mean, of course, I remember Dominion's a huge deal. I don't even remember, but I don't remember like all the top stuff that we did. I know we played some Munchkin, but like
We played Munchkin too. Yeah, we definitely played Munchkin.
I'm over that. I'm over that. I don't play. I have it in my home, but I'm ready to give that game away.
Oh man. Wow. Wow, bro. Okay, okay. So you like, all right, you're doing some hobbies, some different
Yeah.
hobbies and stuff, and okay, UX. How long have you been in UX?
Not that long. Probably like 3 years.
3 years. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Cool. Wow, man. UX, bro. Wow. So you were in QA for several years before you went to.
Oh yeah. I've been QA longer than I've been a UX designer.
Wow, man. Wow. So you pretty much. That's awesome. So you pretty much did school over again as a QA position, and then when you graduated to UX.
That's a funny way to put it.
You
That's a funny way to put it. I'm
did
honestly,
about
I'm
six,
still.
7 years of QA
That's funny.
and then
That's funny.
graduated into UX.
Listen, I would say that I'm actually learning, like, I'm learning a lot on the job. So I would say that like I'm actually still in UX school in many ways. I would
Mm.
not say that I'm done with it at all. Uh,
We're all students, bro.
yeah,
We're all
that's a good way to put
students.
it.
Yeah.
That's a good way to put it.
There's always
Uh,
somebody better. There's always a better way, a more efficient. Like you know, that doesn't stop. The learning doesn't stop.
I think it's good. I think it's good. It's a good thing to like as a QA tester, I definitely felt like for after a while there was some plateauing
Uh huh.
of like what I was learning and stuff.
Mm.
I felt very competent in my ability to do that job. Now, when I'm doing UX design, I do not feel the same way. I feel like I'm a very new fish in a much larger pond than I've been. So I'm still trying to find my allies a little bit.
Okay.
You know,
Yeah. No, definitely. I definitely understand that. I
yeah,
think people where the industry is right now, the industry is in a very tough spot. And what people see mostly is corporations and executive decisions. They don't see the everyday developer like yourself, or the people that are like actually involved with like the finite details of how the game gets done. Because if a company like if a game comes out or whatever and it doesn't do well, then like and then a lot of people don't realize, okay, companies have several divisions, but they're looking at that as a whole. And I'm like, man, I want to bridge that gap because I'm like, nah, man, developers, not corporate, not board, but developers are real people. And um just letting people see the real people that make games, whether you're indie or whether you're AAA, and getting those stories, to just have understanding and then say, hey, I could get into this industry too, or really help somebody that even just gamers, whether they want to make games or not, but just having because game developers are gamers too, so
got
yeah.
it.
So that's where I am, man. That's what I've been doing. Yeah,
You know,
a lot of like I said, Uber and other things to try to keep myself fed. I'm in a tiny house right now. The tiny house is that's been part of my journey. As an indie developer, is figuring out how you're gonna survive while you get your game out. And this is something that I was putting together before the Kickstarter. Just to be clear with everybody, like none of the Kickstarter money, anything went to anything of me getting my tiny house or anything. Like I was driving Uber and doing all this other stuff to say, okay, let me try to position myself where my bills are to a minimum and my expenses to where I can like even on the bare minimum I could survive and eat while making this. So where I am now, I'm on family land, and you know,
yep, same here.
I don't have any like I have free water. We have well water, have solar power. Like I
Oh,
literally
well,
I set up everything, bro, over the years of me doing all that, trying to get publishers, investors. I made sure I set myself up regardless to not need a lot.
Yeah, you live in very the minimal frugal life.
Frugal. Yep. Yeah. Very
I
frugal,
respect I
minimalist.
respect that. I respect that. Huge respect to you,
Hey,
man.
appreciate it, man.
That
Appreciate
is
it.
not easy. Well water, huh? Do you boil it or is it just good to go?
Nah, it's just good to go, man. It's good to go. Well, water straight from the ground, bro. So deep,
Huh.
deep, deep, deep underground. But yeah, man. So that's where I'm at now, bro. So I was just like, yeah, like, I haven't spoke to Ed Pun in a long time, and I said, hey, you know what? I said, why not? And that's another thing I've been doing is I've been compounding a lot. So I said, okay, things that I already do, like I'm a mentor, but people don't see that. You know what I mean? Like I have like like one guy I watched him, grow up as a kid, graduate from high school. I still mentor him to this day, but a lot of that goes unseen, a lot of it. So I say, you know what? I also need to start compounding things. I'm like, one thing I learned from an entrepreneur, he said, look, like compound things in a way that what you're already doing in your life, you just compound it to where he said, don't make your life around a business. He said, make the business around your life.
Hmm. Okay.
So I was like, yeah, I was like, man, I spoke to this man Ed Pun, and I was like, you know what? It'd be a good idea to like catch up with him, and then like a lot of people could like be helped or could receive some insight from his story because this is, and I was just like, yeah, let's do that.
Yeah, and for anybody who has additional questions, um, feel free to keep people in my Discord.
Definitely.
I want to be available if people have questions after if anybody watches this. I don't know how many people watch your stuff,
Yeah, I
but
mean, yeah.
I want to be available if there are any questions for follow up or whatever. Feel free to give them my stuff. Shout
Okay,
my name.
cool. Is there any social media, anything like that or anything you wanna plug or?
Honestly, like I think you can find me on LinkedIn, but I I don't know. I'm in this sort of like camp of like I'm not super active on social media.
Yeah, me either.
So yeah, so
That
just
makes two of us.
hit me up on Discord, I guess. That's a really good way to ask me a question.
Okay.
Definitely do that.
Shoot, man, you should join the Bare Hand. You should join the Discord server we have.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
I thought it was just
If you
you.
want, bro, I
It's
send
just
it.
me and you. It's gonna be me and you talking, just like a DM.
Nah, nah, we have a Discord server.
Oh, because you have the community, right? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
That
So
makes sense. That
I'll
makes sense.
shoot you an invite if you want to join. You can jump in there, man.
Okay.
And yeah, bro. Even with tabletop stuff, like that's stuff I want to get in the server. Like there's people that's interested in tabletop like that. I'm like, yo, I want to gather them in one spot. So
Hmm.
just build community, man, around just gaming, whether it be tabletop, whether it be console PC, like, and then just have this type of resources available to people. Like, wow, like there might be somebody that's getting off work from pharmaceuticals that may watch this and be like, oh my god.
Oh yeah, they want to jump right into QA testing for like
Yeah, they're like, yo, I
twenty
want to make
dollars
a
an hour.
tabletop game. I've been wanting to make tabletop stuff or I've been wanting to get in, do freaking UI stuff or UX stuff, or and I just didn't know where to start. And then they hear your story and they be like, wow, man,
Oh
so.
yeah, get lucky. That's how you do it. I mean, there's some amount of yeah. Make your own luck, I guess.
Definitely, man. Well, all right, cool, man. I'm gonna ask you some random spitball
Oh yeah, yeah.
questions, and then we'll
Hit me,
close it out, bro.
hit me.
All right. So my first question for you is, do you have a favorite Ninja Turtle?
Oh, so I don't know if you know this, but that's a great question. But my cousins and I, right, and including Singer,
Hmm.
right, we have our aside because it's the four of us, right?
Mm-hmm.
I there's me, two mutual cousins, and then on the other side of that, Singer. And the four of us, we have our own turtle. I am Raphael.
Raphael. Okay. Next question. Mountain. Are you a mountain lake guy or a beach and sea guy?
I'm gonna go with Mountain Lake.
Mountain lake. Okay.
I'm a big mountain
Mountain
life.
Lake.
I honestly like I'm not a huge water. This is gonna sound weird, but I'm not a huge water guy.
Okay. Got you.
So for me, you know, I almost rather be hiking than chilling in the water.
Got you.
But
So like,
between
so
the two,
mountain, forest, woods,
yeah.
lake. Okay, got you. Okay. All right. Do you think game developers should get revenue share?
But that's a very specific question, and I'm gonna say like, if you can make it happen, why not? If it's a feasible thing,
Mm,
why not? I know that stocks exist, and
mm,
that's like another kind of way that you
yeah.
could kind of give. It almost feels like it, but not
Mm,
really. But that's it's an interesting discussion. I think maybe like at least you could have like if your game that your studio works on is lucrative,
mm.
I feel like you should have a pool, right? And then that pool should come out of like how successful that game is, and it should go to the bonus for your for the people in that studio at least. I
Okay.
think that's an interesting idea.
How great is the relationship between gamers and developers? Scale of 1 to 10, one being the absolute worst, and being really distant, to 10 being like, okay, it's the best relationship, it's really close and great relationship.
Yeah, I think it's this is gonna be. I don't know if this is gonna be a hot take or not, but I think it's at about a 7.
7? Okay.
I think it's at about a 7. Your question reminds me a little bit
What?
of so like one of my favorite games of all time is a game called Hollow Knight. I
Okay.
don't know if you know of the game,
I do know of the game. I played the
but is it
game. I have it on my
it's tough.
Switch,
Yeah,
and I have not finished it.
I understand. It's not an easy game. There's a lot of it.
Yeah, my cup of tea is usually something, and I
You
and
like
I could
fighting
play
games,
I
don't you?
could play this game, but my cup of tea is something that's crazy high adrenaline, and
Yeah.
how Hollow Knight, like,
Dark Souls?
huh,
What's crazy high? They'll give me an example.
like, I think you've seen some of the games, like I play like Melee,
Okay, sure. Very competitive, like very
Marvel vs
competitive game.
Capcom 3, or Devil May Cry.
You play Overwatch?
Overwatch, I haven't got into Overwatch.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
pretty high though.
Yeah, it is. I've seen it. It's
It's very competitive.
if I was into that the first person game like that, I would definitely.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, but like well, I mentioned it because there's a sequel coming out,
Mm,
and there's a I don't know if you use I don't know if you use Reddit, but I'm on Reddit a good amount.
mm,
Um, it's Reddit if you don't for folks who don't know what that is. It's just a it's there's an app for it, but it's just a site that's kind of like forums, what you forums used to be.
yeah.
There's Reddits, there's subreddits, which are just sort of like the forums for specific topics. But
Mm,
in there's a subreddit for Hollow Knight's sequel, and people are really going wild in that subreddit because people really want that sequel,
mm-hmm.
and it's not out yet, and they haven't been dropping content for it. They
Yeah.
had a demo a few years ago, right? But in terms of like game development as a whole, they're kind of not. They're kind of keeping the wraps up on it.
Yeah.
Um, and people are pissed in that subreddit. A lot of people are just pissed, and every single time there's any kind of like like even the more recent like what is it, the Summer Games Fest? That's what
Mm,
it's called or something,
mm,
right? Or the Xbox uh preview showcase
mm.
that happened like today or yesterday or whatever. Like that, people are like they will hype those events up because maybe there's going to be some Silk Song news, like right the news for the sequel.
Yeah.
And every single time there isn't, somebody starts a thread about how they're so pissed. So it's kind of like people are mad. There
Yeah.
are definitely people who are mad and people who are criticizing, Team Cherry, who's the indie studio that makes the Hollow Knight, right?
Mm,
They're criticizing them for like, you know, radio silence, and they're terrible at communication, stuff like that. Um, I don't know. I I'm just waiting for the game.
yeah.
Like there's so many good games that like I'm not holding my breath. I think a lot of people are
Right.
holding their breath for this game, and
Yeah.
they're getting into like a bad mental state because of because they're in an echo chamber with all these other folks who are also really hyped about it, but they're getting mad.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
getting mad at everything, like every thing that could possibly come up.
Right.
Just they just want, they're fiending for, they're like, you know, rabid for some news, and I'm just like, they're it's a game that they have a huge shoe to fill
Yeah.
because they created a game that was a masterpiece
Yep.
in his eyes, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so, they're making a sequel. It's gonna take a bit. Their team isn't large,
Yep.
uh, and I think that people don't. I think the people in that subreddit are just not really aware of how much work
Yeah.
stuff goes into like making a polished game like Hollow Knight. Like
Yep.
you can make a game in a very short amount of time, but it's just not going to be good. If
Yeah.
you're making a game like Hollow Knight, you don't really get to cut corners.
Right.
There's so much time that has to be spent in the last 3% of the game,
Yeah.
right? Like you're doing that super detailed level of polishing that
Yep.
just takes so much time, um, and people don't understand. Uh,
Yep.
the,
That's
what
that's exactly that question. Yeah. And that I think it's creating more transparency and more closeness with developers can solve this problem. They give people like I hear stories about. I've heard a story about like I think the game Astroneer, the astronaut game.
okay.
Someone from their studio died, and
I
it's
didn't hear
like
about that. Okay.
yeah, and
Wow.
it's the game did really well, and it's just like man, gamers need to hear about stuff like that. Like they need to know what's going on the insides. Like yo, we get sick, we bleed, we like
Interesting.
you
I
know
think
what I mean.
that's definitely like that's definitely a way to approach it, and there's definitely some studios that kind of lean into that relationship,
Mm-hmm.
or like I think if you're a fan of Twitch at all, right? That's a huge part of why Twitch works, is because you have the streamer and then you have like the streamer's relationship with chat,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that there's a big there's a potential like they're kind of filling in a lot of social needs for people that used to exist in more physical space, but
Mm-hmm.
ever since COVID and lockdown and stuff, a lot of digital spaces have been trying to fill that void,
Yeah.
and that's definitely one way to go about it is really to leverage the potential communication points between and a potential audience and you as like a content creator, any like slash game studio if you want,
Mm-hmm.
you know yeah, you could make that a part of your studio if you want. I don't, and the thing is, like, I actually don't care whether or not, personally, I don't care whether or not Team Cherry goes with his style. I know that Team Cherry is they're cooking in it,
Yeah.
and I just want to let them cook.
Right.
Um, but I think that if you want to do that as a studio, that is totally a valid choice. It's just, you know, obviously, like, can you juggle that?
Yeah.
That's not free. Can you juggle that with making a game too? Do you pay a PR guy to do it for you?
Right.
You know,
Yep.
so that it's an interesting consideration, I guess. If you're as a game dev, you can try to leverage your audience
Yep.
relationship more
Yeah.
if you want to. But like you could also be really awkward and not be good at that. That's a potential thing too.
Mm-hmm.
So uh, also some people don't want to share content because they treat their art like a more of a movie experience where like
Mm-hmm.
you should go in as blind as possible.
Yeah.
So the more content updates you do for your audience, the less that is a thing.
Yeah. So the last question: you're going to a casino to win big. Who do you take with you? Waluigi or Gambit from
Oh,
the
okay.
X Men?
Oh, there's two options. Okay,
Yeah. Waluigi or Gambit from the X Men.
I'm trying to think of like those are two. Very different characters. Both both extremely peak levels of sexy, but very different characters. I'm trying to think like of what like Waluigi is bringing to the table. Like I know Waluigi's first appearance was Mario Tennis, wasn't it? I swear it was. I swear it was Mario Tennis in like the N64. That's like the first time he showed up. And I don't even know what he does. He doesn't have his own lore. He's just a wacko, and he's like the tall, slender version of Wario.
Yeah, I don't
Uh,
know. He might be, he. I see him at Mario Party. He throw his little roads up and catch it. Look like he a smooth dude. He might be able to smooth his way in some deals. He might be able to see. Who knows?
uh, is that are you suggesting that you would be taking Waluigi in
I
this?
nah. I'm just saying. I'm like, hey, who
I guess I'll go with
knows?
God. I don't know. Honestly, I don't know how either of them would help.
you
Did
got
you say
you got to
you said
pick
it's
one.
the
You got to pick one.
you said the goal is to win big. That doesn't
Yeah.
mean that's not like I'm going in to steal the like I'm not casing the joint so I can rob their safe. It's not like an Ocean's 11 type of thing. Whereas I feel like if it was, obviously I would pick Gambit, but I'm trying to win big. I'm not sure how Gambit is useful either.
Hey man, hey, I mean, shoot. Well, Gambit, that's why they call him Gambit, man, because he's a professional swindler too. He could pull up somewhere. And he got the cards. You know what I mean? He know how to get you. He know how to get the ace of spades when he wants to. Who knows? So it's like. You got Mario Party, while Waluigi know how to get them coins, if it worked the board.
All right, I guess I'm taking Gambit because like if 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 I happen to stumble upon a plan, I feel like Gambit would at least have like half a brain to be able to like collaborate with me. Whereas like if I bring Waluigi, the only thing he could be is a distraction, which might but like that's not I'm not winning big at that point. I'm like robbing the place.
Oh man, that's awesome. All right, Waluigi it is.
Okay,
Oh
Waluigi
man.
it is.
Wow, wow, man. Great stuff, man. Thank you so much, Ed,
Yeah, yeah.
for doing this interview, man. And this being the first of the first, you are starting something with me
Oh, I'm
that
so honored then.
I'm gonna be doing, man. And I just thought it was no better person but you, because you are the reason why like I got into WB. You introduced me to your cuz and showed my work, and I got in. So I was just like, man, if Ed didn't make that connection, you know what I mean? Like I might not even be making indie games right. Who knows? I don't know. So
Hey, all that well water you're drinking right now, that's because of me.
yeah.
You are so welcome. You deserve every pint of every liter of well water that you can drink.
Oh man. Well, shoot. Well, for right now, I shower and stuff with it, but yeah. Cool, cool. All right, I'm gonna wrap this up.